Testimony Was a Person, the podcast where we interview professionals of all kinds about their personal life and how it intersects with their professional life and issues of inclusion and equity. Today we have a special guest. This is someone who is a disruptive thinker, someone who brings in solutions in a field that people of color are clearly underrepresented in, the STEM industry. Leader of a STEM conference, founder and CEO of Ojai Technologies, and much more, which you'll tell us, Ms. Subrina Oliver.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'll start off asking,
Thank you.
Where were you born and raised?
So interesting. I was actually born here in New York. I was born in New York, East Meadow Hospital, and my father is from Savannah, Georgia, and just before he went to Vietnam, he came here to hang out with his brothers who were here in New York. My grandmother is identical twin, so the Southern thing, you come up here to work. She is a Dinkins, and so my father came up here to hang out before going into the military in the Army, and he met my mom, and they did what they did, and so once my father got out of the Army, we went back to Savannah. Well, we went to Savannah, and I spent my formative years in Savannah, Georgia, and then returned November of '83 because it was shocking to me. That's why I remember that. 8th grade, middle of 8th grade, and then also I did high school, and then I went to Colorado to earn my first degree, a degree in automotive technology, Denver Automotive and Diesel College. It was considered the Harvard of automotive colleges. Okay.
Were you the only girl in your class?
Well, so there were about in the whole school, and they had 3 sections. They had there may have been 4 or 5 girls in the whole school, but I had to have an apartment closer to the school, away from the guys and whatnot. There were a lot of people from New York there, typically Brooklyn School of Automotive and whatnot. In terms of being one of the only girls, I would say that I was the only girl that was there for automotive for myself. The other ones were there because of a husband or a business or, but not necessarily they decided on their own,
Were you referencing Automotive High School in Brooklyn? Is that
Yes.
where students came
Yeah,
from?
Yeah, I was the only one here. Exactly. I was the only one from Hempstead. Hempstead High School actually had an automotive program. Big ups all day to the late George Buchanan. Out of all his students, I'm the one that actually went to Denver Automotive and Diesel, got a degree. Some probably have gone to some automotive schools and also received a diploma, but I got a degree, and I did my degree 2 years in one year. I did a 2-year degree in 1 year, and then I've always helped them to try to bring more girls into the program, and then eventually I started teaching the entire class, like when he was ready to retire. But he had to talk me into that.
That's wonderful. I mean, this has obviously been your life's work to bring more and more people into the fields that you are in, which are not necessarily the most common fields for people of color or women. But I want to ask this before we go on. I mean, Savannah, Georgia, what is the effect that Savannah, Georgia placed on you that you say that you would recognize as being such?
Well, let me just say, one of the things that I'm grateful for that I'm recognizing even more so the older I get is that while growing up, I was as close to my mother's side of the family as to my father's side. And both have very large families. Um, I would say Savannah. I'm so grateful that I grew up in Savannah. Um, there was there were things that I took for granted in terms of growing up. What's grown folks' business, what's not, was children business. Like we didn't know. I remember, even though most summers we would, vacation in Hempstead, you're right. But it's still different. I didn't know that people had different daddies. Just stuff that just wasn't. I later on, once I got older, oh, oh, so you're my cousin. Oh, you're my uncle's child. We may have been playing together, but we never knew, right? So that's a small thing. But another thing is family. Family is different. It's when they in the South, and when they say who your peoples is, your mistake or your good deed, it's a reflection on the people, right? Your people. The other thing is, even if my male family members were to get in any type of trouble, there's such a support system, or females. The other thing is that, there's a difference in what family means, and taking care of your family. And that is something that I just don't understand.
Yeah.
It's here in New York. It's so very different. It's yes, you're supposed to have a home here in Savannah, but here in New York is, if you have a home, God forbid, they know you got extra rooms. Like, they think they're supposed to stay with you. I'm just like, what? And they'll tell you how much they're going to pay you for your place. Or the other thing is that I didn't really grow up thinking that the woman is supposed to be paying rent and mortgages. It's a lot different, right? While most would say, oh, you're independent. Yeah, because I have to be able to survive and whatnot. But baby, okay, all right, I am a super independent dependent. Let's just put that out there. But it's just the morals and values are very different. Also, buy a house with just one income. Here in New York, especially on Long Island, people buy houses they can't afford. They buy it, just because both of you, let's just take a professional couple. I'm just going to start with a professional couple. Just because you're both making it, if you're thinking about having children, you don't know what you're going to have. You don't know if the child's going to be healthy. You don't know if you're going to be healthy after. You don't know. There's no room left for a just in case. And it's always going to rain. Your rain might be a tsunami. Your rain might be a hurricane. It's just different there. Like, if you buy a house with one income, and many would say, oh, you can't live like that. Yeah, you can. It's called sacrifice. You can. You can. And the first house you buy doesn't have to be the house you live in. It can be an investment house. It's just the conversations are different. And what's interesting is that people in New York swear the South is slow. Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just very different.
Yeah, New York, it's the reason New York, I think, loses a lot of people to the South. In fact, I went to a thing at the Schomburg where they showed the reverse migration.
Yes.
And
that's happening.
From 1980, around 81 to now, more people have left the North and went back to the South than who came to the North from the South between 1890 and 1920. When did you know that technology was your thing? But by the time you graduated from Denver School, you kind of knew.
No. So this is the thing about, because I'm asked very similar questions, and we're all humans, right? When it comes to automotive, girls are in automotive. Mm-hmm. They might be driving the car. Mm-hmm. You're in the industry as a consumer, right?
Right.
I never wanted to necessarily be in automotive. I've always wanted to be with airplanes, and I just love. I can tell you all the parts of an airplane. I just love the airplane, but I did not see a pathway for it per se at that time. Not in Savannah did I see a pathway. My dad was a diesel mechanic, so cars were always around me. But I never wanted to fix a car. But I have I've understood that there's a direct pathway. There are more schools in terms of getting into automotive through repairs or body work. But I went in thinking I was always going to be in business for myself. I thought at that time, I think was Jesse Jackson, but he was doing something with the manufacturers at that time, and I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna finish school and then I'm going to own my dealerships and stuff and that nature.
Pardon me interrupt, but that's I think what I keep learning is that's another thing about the South is that people assume that you wouldn't come with the entrepreneurial spirit from the South, but often I'm finding that.
Yeah, you know what? I never wanted to work for someone. I never, ever, ever, and I can honestly remember thinking, okay, I'm going to do the type of work that not a monkey could do. And sometimes how I speak, it can come off rough. If you lend me some grace, I'm usually a female that's always around men. You're right. So I don't mean that just because somebody else, but I'm just saying for myself, you can be in a big ocean, and be in a small fish. I'd rather do that. Rather be in a big fish. I don't want that. I don't want to be where it's crowded. And it's not, it's sometimes it's intentional, but it's also is just, I don't know if I'm just wired like that, but in fifth grade in Savannah, I remember my fifth grade talent show. I used to dance professionally also, and I don't mean to pole, but I'm not against it, okay? But we traveled, this is Space Controls, this is when pop and lock and all that. But my group, the talent show, they weren't part of my dance group. But I bought everybody. It was 5 of us. I bought everybody their outfit. I'm in 5th grade. I bought everybody's outfit. I put it on layaway, and all they had to do was get their little white skips. You right? And I choreographed it and things of that nature. I've always had a nick for making money. The only time it was problematic is when, for example, I never wanted to be married. I never, ever wanted children, but I was, I had my friend of a long time wanted to be married. And I'm like, all right,
I guess
talk me into, I did not want it. I'm like, listen, this is how it's going to have to be. And he was like, Sabrina, could we just have children? I'm like, oh, okay. But anyway, so we did that. But I had a plan. He reneged, and I stuck to the plan. But when I worked for someone, I had to go in and even when working for someone, and I tell young people this to this day, yes, where you work is where you work, but you work for yourself. You work for your family. If you go in with the mindset that you work for yourself, and it's arrogant for a lot of people to hear that. And I tell people, even when I was working, listen, I work for myself and I work for my family. And so it doesn't matter. This is where I'm doing the work, but I don't work for you. I don't work for you. Like it drives me crazy when I hear teachers or someone say, that's my principal. That's not your principal. That is their role is
it's a
principal.
way of looking at it, right?
Right. And your role is teacher. You guys are, colleagues. But if that's your principal, that's a problem.
You said not a place where it's crowded. You didn't want to be in. Now, what I would say is that in a fortunate or unfortunate way, we were often told, especially here in a place like New York, that, because of our history where our fathers and grandfathers got into the Union and that was how they got a middle class life.
Yeah.
I worked for the railroad, and that's when I got my benefits, and we could travel for free. And I was in the union, and they couldn't fire black people easily. So we were told, go get that city job, go get that, state job or whatever it was, work for the post office and hold on to that job and get your pension. And that was your way into a life that many people in your family could only dream of.
That
But
is
that's
true.
a bold and
Yeah.
liberating way to look at it, that you could do work that would separate you from.
Yeah, no, and I get it, and I do understand it, and I think that oftentimes, especially as Black people as well, the average Black, I'm not talking about affluent, a lot of conversations are left untold of what happens on those jobs, even though you're in those spaces, even as professionals,
Yeah.
and it can be quite lonely being the only ones, and so getting as many people on that job, and if this job is quote unquote successful, but that's part of the problem though.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting because I feel we do a disservice as parents, as family members, when we are telling a young person what to do, and we can share our experiences, but I don't think that anyone should tell someone what type of job. And I understand where it's coming from. It's coming from a place of love, it's coming from a place of safety. But what it's not
Safety.
doing, right, safety and right, and but what it's not doing is taking into account that this person has come to this physical space, with their own interests, even though it might be unexplored. What is it that what is their talent? So for me, I'm never going to tell you, even if you want to be in STEM industries or do STEM work, because you could be in industry and not actually doing the actual job, right? I just want to know, what is it that you love?
Right.
What brings you peace? What is it that you would do that if you weren't even paid for it? Even if you don't know, what is that people compliment you on? Even just talking. There's a technology. Can you just look to see if there's a technology for it? Or is there, in another area, for it? But I think that another thing that we don't do enough is there's income, and then there's salary and or wages, right? So just let's say that you make, let's just say 50,000 or 100,000 from a particular job. Okay, that's what they're paying you, but that's not all you can make. But
Right.
so many of us, especially in New York, especially in Long Island, where is super expensive, we just get on this, this wheel, this hamster wheel of going to work, whatever it is. And most are not even happy. Now, if you're happy, I have nothing to say. But if you're complaining and then you're making this money and you don't understand that it's not how much you make, because the $50,000 salary person could really at the end, of their career or whatnot, have more, later on. So it's about how much you keep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, how are you multiplying? Like, these are the lessons that we really need to be taught, and also exploring these interests. So in the work that I do, especially on the talent development side, is, what is it that you love to do?
This
You
this
know?
is good. You mentioned talent and development. Is a good segue, because really, what your company does and your passion is to bring people not just into this field, like you said, you could get this job or you can get that job, but to um, expose people first of all, and then when they do get into the field, to give them access to spaces that
Hmm.
they might not have had access to before. So talk about what you do with that in
Yeah.
Ojai.
So, I mean, Ojai Technologies is a workforce development and a talent development company for the STEM industries, where we focus on diversity, equity, inclusion in those spaces across the talent pipeline. So in education space, are there enough people being prepared, varied people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Black, white, Hispanic, because a white male C student may not be on a STEM education track, right? And so that means that they will not have access, to the training to prepare them, for those types of careers. So I try to work with whoever my clients are, to actually shore up the talent pipeline. That pipeline, when I say talent, I'm talking about workers. So that pipeline may be at the government level, and helping government think about their residents and their businesses, the employers. What is it that they need? The employers to help them grow. Usually to help employers grow, right? Other than funding on the human resource side, the talent side, right? They need workers. They need skilled, proficiently skilled workers.
Yeah.
More local, the better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so if that's what they need, then now we need to look at what are the colleges, right? Are the colleges have the programs that's needed to support the businesses,
Correct.
to support the government that wants to support its community, right? And then, if we look at the colleges, and I said I'm talking 2-year, 4-year trades, whatever. I'm just talking about higher ed, right? I'm just talking about higher ed, formal education, not necessarily what most people will think. But if not, then what about the schools? Well, Long Island has 126 public school districts, and that's just the public. 124 of those have secondary programs, meaning middle school, high school.
Right.
Shelter Island, Fire Island, they only have elementary schools.
Okay.
I believe that's right. I think it's Shelter, but it's definitely Fire Island. So do they have the right programs? And who's in those programs? What are the programs that they're doing? So these are the things that I think about. And what other access outside of the schools? What do the parents, are they aware? Do they know what are the jobs, especially here on Long Island, that's so expensive to live? And you have so many parents that have, professional children. When I say professional, I mean that they're educated or they're older and working, but they can't necessarily get out the house.
That's an interesting term.
Yeah.
And quick comment, I was a school counselor, and I constantly looked at the fact that school counselors really have all of the coursework to be professional counselors, and that New York State didn't have a licensed professional counselor designation until 2005. And when New York got it, the question that you posed, like, are the schools prepared to prepare people to go into that industry? Alfred University, I gave them a lot of props because they set up a program where people who were school counselors could go back and get the master's in professional counseling. And it's very important work. I mean, people generally don't have the chance, even people who I think are very intelligent people don't have the chance to imagine changing the trajectory of different fields by thinking about these topics. And you are correct when you say that we who are the leadership in these fields, we need to think bigger than just getting people jobs.
Yeah, and you don't know the jobs,
Right.
and you don't know the jobs. So focus on industry. I just also wanted to add to that in terms of there's also a disconnect between business or industry and the educators, the trainers, if you would. And I get it. And so what I like to think of myself is I speak educator because I understand the rhyme and reason of some of the justification, even though I don't necessarily may agree, but I just tell myself everybody's doing the best that they can with this system that's designed the way it's supposed to be designed, right? But everybody means well. I've not met anyone that doesn't mean well, that's trying to prepare young people. Then on the industry side, you're busy with profit. You don't have time for waiting for the school calendar, whether it's schools or colleges.
Right.
But it's the other thing in terms of guidance counselors. If industry does not make a commitment, especially local industry, does not see that you're asking, it's like me saying, I'm asking you to raise my child, Don, because it's my child. Right, and I don't tell you what I need. So in terms of the industries, the schools are raising your future workers, and you don't want to invest.
Good analogy.
You don't want to invest, and I understand why. But you're going to have to make it a priority, right? There are many things we don't want to do, but we have to see the bigger picture. And then industry is important because I'm gonna tell you why. So thinking of industry and not jobs. So there is, for example, there was a young lady who worked McDonald's, throughout her high school years and even her college. And then she wants to become a school psychologist. Well, I'm like, okay, well, I love you, Dana, but I just need you to think about this for a second, right? Okay, so you're going to quit McDonald's, right? And you want to become a school psychologist. And I said, but you've had so many accolades at McDonald's. So just stay with me with this, right? I said, every school district only has about, Long Island. Well, now they can have more, but let's just give on average 2. Let's say 2 school psychologists. It's almost like the NBA or NFL, right? In terms of the numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, I said, but do you know McDonald's has a university? You already have a history of McDonald's. They already know you, managers, because she's done very well for herself in terms of leadership locally, but at the restaurant level. I said, girl, every time I go overseas, the first place I go is look at the McDonald's menu. When I go to a different state, I go and look at the restaurant. I said, but there's a whole university. McDonald's has schools. I said, have you ever looked at that? You don't have to just think about locally. And this is where a lot of schools are short-sighted, and partly because they don't know. They don't know. Even if you want to be a teacher, or the same with this young lady, there's also independent schools. And I mean, like, for the military even, it doesn't have to be what we think. And so then another instance is a young man was just trained, a couple of young men last summer in IT, but most people don't understand IT, information technology, right? And the people who are training them or setting them up for this type of training don't understand IT for the most part. Tech people understand is a lot to it. It might be the software side, it might be just the internet of things, it might be the Wi-Fi. It's a number of things. Okay, but you still have to figure out where you want to do this work. Just like when someone tells me they're going to school for business, I just want to stab myself in the chest. Like, okay, all right. So for example, I had to talk to, the executive director of that program, because her whole thing, he's not going back to Dollar Tree because he's got this IT training. I said, but Dollar Tree is a whole chain.
Dollar Tree is a multi.
I said he can go back to Dollar Tree. You don't want him to go back to Dollar Tree on the register,
right?
Or stop. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look at the whole picture. We don't do that. We don't do that. And unfortunately, we are educating young people for that same kind of mindset. One job, the union or whatever. It's an industry, because you might get bored if we say these young people, they're microwave children. How us adults talk about these kids so badly. They microwave, they have the attention of this and this. Meanwhile, we're buying all the stuff for them, right? Oh, they just on this cell phone, this, that we purchase, they just consumers. We don't tell them how to be producers. You know, it's us that are misguiding and misdirecting because we're telling them to do from our training and whatnot, but that's not their world. And so you can have young people who, if we believe what we believe, that they bore easily and whatnot, so they should understand industry. They should understand, they should focus on their skills and building their skills and knowing how to identify the skills you have and what's transferable about those skills and where. So you can move all over the place and pick up a lot of different things. And why not even think about, say, for example, the alcohol industry is $1 billion industry. She could be a school psychologist in the alcohol industry, but we don't think, and schools are never going to tell a young person about that STEM industry, the alcohol spirits industry, but you don't have to drink. It's just maddening to me. So you take Long Island, we have wineries.
Right.
We have distributors. We have distillers. We have you have government in terms of if you even thinking about getting alcohol license, for different things, right?
Yeah.
You have attorneys. There's so many entry points where you can get there. You can, if you, whatever your favorite libation is, your spirit is, right? Or somebody else's, go to the website. I don't want to promote anyone, but go to their website and look at the jobs. You'll be, your mind will be blown about the types of jobs and how much and how well they pay, right? And how much you'll learn in terms of the science and the engineering behind it. Also, you'll learn, things about cognac that you didn't know, wines, and it's just so many different things. There's one company, I am going to say their name, Monkeys in Paradise, where they are letting you buy with Bitcoin and things of that nature. There's just so many things. And if we are honest, if you say that there is a wedding, a party, an event, I know many of us, we want to know, is this a cash bar? Is this not a cash bar? Oh, wait a minute. There's no alcohol? Okay. let me get myself together. Okay. This better be good to distract me. We're not honest. We're not honest. And if we're honest, we'll have more people doing the things that they love to do, and we'll all be better for it. If you think about going to a diner or someplace and the person is always smiling, there's a difference when someone loves what they do. What I want to do is put more of us in a position where we love what we do, because you're naturally going to continue your education, whether it's formal or informal, versus what bothers me is when I hear people say, well, I'm about to retire. I'm never going to retire. I don't even understand it. So, because they mean they're going to stop doing all this training and all this work that they've spent all this time, wasting their life, because this is the money they made, but this is not where their love is. And now they want to look to do what they want to do. But, the numbers have it that on average, you're going to live 11 years past your retirement, especially you've already shortened your life, because think about the stress and the cortisol levels and everything that's built up because you've hated your job. And now you hear, and nothing's worse than somebody going back, let me just, you didn't even think about it. You didn't really, really think about it. Few do, So I don't want you to retire. I want you to always, in one way or another, do what you love. My retirement to me is, I'm going to do more writing, about talent development, workforce development, STEM, right? My coffee shop, but it will still be, with the things that I want to do. If we can get more people doing what they want to do, if parents can stop telling kids, oh, you just playing music, or you just on this computer. Well, do you know that in Ronkonkoma, and by the way, I'm on the STEM steering committee for this new Coliseum-ish building that we're designing to build in Ronkonkoma. We'll have a whole gaming component, Coliseum part. Yeah, there are schools that actually have, these programs for young people. And this is the other thing that I think is very important, that if I can leave with anything, is that we seem to have a mindset that while young people are in school, they're in school. No, they're in their career. They're in an early, like when you think about a trip, this leg of your trip,
Yeah.
right? That's your elementary leg of your trip. This is your secondary leg of your trip. This is your higher education or your on the job experience leg of your trip. And now you're in. So, and then there's still continual learning. And so if we can stop having young people to think like we were told, they don't have to. There's no reason why any of us, our children, should be getting out of school with student loans, right? Other than it's just ignorance, really, because one, if she knows how to braid hair, she'd be making money now. If he writes or he colors or he draws, he can be selling that art now, right? We have to invest more in what our children love, not us telling them, we have to be honest, right? And we're not honest enough, because they can be making money and they can be learning about money. For my children, I remember because when my daughter was hit by a car and suffered the early part of a traumatic brain injury, I remember the only thing she remembered was my my pen for my credit card. Because listen, this is the money we make in this household, right? This is what we have. You want to do that, we can do that, but we're probably not going to eat. If you're okay with not eating, then let's do that. But because they need to understand the consequences. So what I'm saying when I share that is we're bringing too much of our past, with our children. Our children, they need to know how to run a household. They can't if we're not showing them the finances. This is how money management, because we love to say the schools are not teaching this. The schools, the school's job is just to formalize and baseline education for the general populace, right? They're not the only ones. It start in the house, measurements, right? I just don't understand why our children just don't know fractions, and now we got this offshore wind industry coming. Now they absolutely have to know metric, right? Metric is easier, but those who tend to learn metric are those who are advanced in those science and whatnot. But it's pizza, it's basic as is two of us. We have one child, it's 3 slices, right? We decide to have it's still one pie, right? It's still one pie. We have to look at this pie, right?
Right.
And it's the same in the kitchen. It's fractions. You can't live or die without math or science. And every time we're methodical about our approaches, that is the engineering. And then lastly, in terms of technology is not just IT. Technology is anything that is human made or human manipulated. For example, if you go outside, you touch dirt. Dirt is nature. The floor is technology. A tree is, nature. Paper is technology. So when I hear I don't know technology, you use it every day. Everything around us was somebody's idea. Don't you want that idea to be yours? And if parents could stop, designing their children's rooms and spaces and let them figure out who they are and help guide them, and measurements and it's just so much. When I think about the work that I do, it is raising future workers. It is raising them. It's not me telling you, it's like me helping you, as a facilitator. And I do the same with the employers and, the government leaders, helping them see things differently, asking why. Like, why are we eating turkey for Thanksgiving when everybody want the dark pieces for the most part? Nobody want the whole damn turkey, right? Why do we keep doing it? We don't have to. We can do a different thing. It's okay to do a different thing. It's okay to other yourself. And most people are not comfortable othering or standing out, and it takes a lot of courage. But that's what I love about the work that I do. You're challenged, you're sharpened, and I just meet so many different types of people, and I want to say that STEM has helped me, to save my child's life.
Mm.
You know, and it is just the way that you're taught to think is very different, you know. And even if you do not go into a STEM field, if you're STEM trained, you're still going to earn more. You're still going to be a better employee just because you approach problems very differently.
Opens up the right side of the brain.
Both sides.
The creative.
Both sides.
Okay.
Both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when people say, oh, well, we're at my school is doing STEM and STEAM, and because I always say STEM and they know their school's doing STEAM. But what it is that if you understood STEM, you wouldn't have to do STEAM, right? But it's part of its branding.
So for the audience, it's
science, technology, engineering, and math. And then when they say STEAM, it is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math.
Right.
But technology, is about craftsmanship, is about design. You already have the arts in there, and art is just who we are as humans. And then there's streams, science, technology, research, engineering, arts, and math. They just keep going. Then they streams with the S at the end. They added social studies. It doesn't make sense, At the base level, this country, we are an innovative country, but we lack the proficient number of students who are properly educated in science and math to be able to really help advance the types of technologies and be in those engineering fields that we need.
This is an education for me, and I think people who listen to this interview are going to get a lot from it, because truly we have been trained to find a way to earn money, and there's these very traditional paths to earning money, and like the analogy or case that you gave me about the
Dana.
Right. She was working in
yes.
a multi-million, multinational corporation, right. But then was kind of like, I got to get out of there to do school psychology. But
you already have a network.
Right.
You have a network of people supporting you. Like even with you, Don, when you was telling me about your baby,
mm-hmm.
And she likes art, but I'm like, but she likes art. We can go so many places with that, And then the other thing, there are a lot of women, Black women already, and not, well, Black women, let me just stick with Black women, who are, for girls in STEM spaces. I'm for the Black family, ultimately. And so I don't focus just on girls. Like whenever you talk to me about your daughter, I'm like, and what is your son doing? I'm always bringing him in.
You do.
Because, and this is a truth also, this is a truth, and so I'm very comfortable with sharing, and I'm an oversharer, but so I would say when it comes to, say, someone like myself, men tend to want their daughters to be like me, but not their women, right? All right. And the reason why that is important for me to share that is when I see that other young girls are being taught to get the education that they deserve, the careers that they deserve. I know, because I'm already in this space, that it's very important that we have as many men and Black boys, right, getting that same thing so that she has a pool. Because if not, I will tell young Black women that the gap between your possibilities of getting a mate as you're on your career path is the gap in the bridge that you need to make that happen, right? Or really open your mind up to it, whether your parents agree or not, if this is what you want for yourself, right? Is when you're in that college, because we graduate at a higher rate than black boys, right? And of course, I'm talking about cis and cis females and cis men, right? And if we're not mindful about taking care of our black boys, we're going to have less men for our girls, later on.
Absolutely.
Black men. And
Absolutely.
and I know that people are not really thinking that, but they should.
That's real. I mean, there's a bunch of studies on that
Oh yeah.
already, and I mean, if she becomes a teacher and tops out making 125,000 a year, by the time she's making 105, she's out earning her counterparts who are probably making 60. Even if they've been in their job for a long time, they're probably making between 60 and 80. I'm not going to be able to.
Yeah, and it's not even. And it's the other thing is that also that the Southern versus New York mindset also. Even if she is a young lady who was raised by a father, right, and versus someone who was not, that's another subject. There's some information that we can discuss there. But she may be thinking, okay, I make 105, he makes 60. Okay, we good. We make 165. But he's like, New Yorker dude is like, no, she makes too much more money. I ain't gonna be able to tell. It's very different.
I always tell a story about how there was a couple that I knew, and she was making about 135, and he was making about 50,000, and she thought, or they thought, I think they both thought they were going to be okay, but when he would turn the heat up, and she was really the one paying the heating bill.
But she wasn't. So that's where the problem is.
Right. She was both of them paying it, right?
Yeah. The household. They're
a household.
Yeah,
right?
you're a unit. Either you are or you're not. Either you're together. But that's
a big conversation. Right? Because
people don't want to have it though.
If he needs a car and he has to say, baby, I need to get a car, and it would be impossible to get it without her really being the primary signer or something like that, it makes a difference. And maybe it shouldn't, but it plays on the power dynamics and the way people feel.
But I think that's the problem. The power dynamics. The problem is that where's the team? Where's the discussion? First of all, these are things that we think about. How much money is it okay for us to just spend on our own before we need to involve the other party in? You know what I mean? What do you like doing? In my household, when I was married, I never had to cook, okay? Unless I said, okay, the kids need vegetables now because my husband think corn is a vegetable. He didn't like to cook vegetables. Right. But I'm the one fixing the bikes. I'm putting the bikes together. I'm the one handling all the maintenance.
Imagine.
I'm the one dealing all, and then he'll come out with the tea and whatnot, baby. I know. And he'll say to the workers, I know she's hard on y'all, right? Y'all just come and get some of this food and whatnot, but that's my role,
Right.
But these are things that you have to determine, and, but that's a different discussion that we don't have. That's something that, I understand just in my own past relationship. It's funny because I remember him saying to me that, Northeastern men are not like that. I'm like, actually, you know what? He might be right. You know what? But Caribbean men, in my experience, totally get it. You woman, I'm man. And look, I can get with that. It's none of this other stuff, but there's this competition, and some of it's structural. It has nothing to really do. It's puppeteering us, and we don't even know that it is. But it's our household, or is it not? It's not. It's and this is I know a lot of women are not going to like it, but I see a big difference in my sisters who were not raised by men. They're very the way that they think, is very different about what's. But they're the ones that want the man the most. It's so crazy.
I agree that it is structural and there is some puppeteering. I was gonna say that the most pervasive characteristic that I would give you from what I've learned about you in this talk is that you are willing to step outside of the structures and say, what can we do? And a lot of people are just found a way to survive in the structure, and so they think that is what to hold on to. But if you can look outside of the structure and find a way, that's important. I hope to have you on again in the future. Wonderful, insightful commentary. We appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Subrina Oliver. And if you...
it's Dr. Oliver.
He
just refused to put respect on this name.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Me,
you
Dr.
just
Subrina
refuse.
Oliver. I absolutely want to give you those regards. So if people want to reach you through Ojai Technology or whatever your preference
they
is.
can find me on LinkedIn, but there are two Subrinas, and it's SU, Brina Oliver, but I would say Subrina D as in Denise Oliver. Find me on LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, you'll get all my, you'll get all the other websites to Ojai Technologies, which is o-high-tech.com, and then the others. I have 4 different websites.
Help to Adjust, Inc. Presents If Testimony Was a Person. Thank you, Dr. Oliver.
You're welcome. Thank you.